Hey, and welcome to the podcast. We are back and we are starting for the month of September, which means that we have a new topic at hand. And the topic for the month of September is going to be the idea of how to grow your ministry. And we're going to talk about the importance of group growth, but not only that, how you can do it organically, how you can do it to where hopefully it's a growth that sticks. And then we're just going to spend 4 weeks talking through the different ideas of how to get more kids into your program. And so today we are starting with probably the most duh out of all of the topics that we'll do this month. And that is just the mindset of the power of personal invitation. And so with that, I have a great story that goes with this because legit it happened last week. And so it was really, really cool. But this is a testament to the power of personal invitation. So last week we had it was our second week back for the fall. And we had a kid that he got baptized over the summer and he's starting to come to youth on Wednesday nights. And so last week he brought a friend with him. And he invited the friend personally, showed up, hung out with the friend all night. My lesson that night was on grace and mercy and justice and how they all coincide together and how they're pivotal to the gospel. Um, and so we go through the high school lesson. We're talking through everything. I'm stacking up chairs at the end of the lesson, and lo and behold, this kid walks up. First time he's ever been there. Walks up behind me and goes, "Hey, so I think I want to accept Jesus." And so, like, legit, like, this is a conversation that, I'm like literally experiencing and walking through at this moment. And that is the power of the personal invitation. And so, this would not have happened if that friend hadn't have stepped up, that friend hadn't been encouraging and invited them to join them at church that night. Now, granted, I'm not saying that that was the only opportunity that that kid would have ever had to embrace the gospel, but I'm saying that the kid saw an opportunity. He took it. He invited his friend. He showed up with his friend, spent the night hanging out with his friend. The friend heard the gospel and changed his life. And so, really, really cool opportunity. And so, it kind of leads me to this question, David, and this idea of like, what if the growth of your ministry is just one invite away? And I think a lot of times we feel the guilt or we feel this need of like saying, "Oh, well, like I'm gonna invite people," and it's not your job. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there. Your job is to encourage everybody else in your ministry to be inviting people, because when you invite people to come to youth group, you sound like the teacher on Charlie Brown. The wah, 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 wah. And with that, like, people really aren't going to listen to that because it's like, oh yeah, like you want me to come support you, kind of thing like that. That makes sense. Um, but when you have students inviting students, when you have leaders speaking about how it's the highlight of their week and how they look forward to it, and this is their opportunity for recharge, even though they're the ones leading lessons and teaching, like that is how you get growth. So that power of personal invitation is super, super important. Um, but David, why do personal invitations matter?
Number one, I think a lot of times whenever you get invited, I mean, put yourself in the shoes of the students. Like even as adults, if someone says, "Hey, there's this event going on, would love for you to go," one of the first things you're going to ask is, "Who's going to be there?" I mean, let's be completely honest. Um, if we are inviting people, go, "Well, that's your job to invite people." It doesn't feel as personal. It doesn't feel as special. It feels like you're working. You're selling me. We might as well be a door-to-door salesman in those moments. But when somebody invites and says, "Hey, as a student, I would love for you to join me at youth group," they already know one person, so there's already more of a pull to get another student there because I already have one friend. Who else is going to be there? Well, there's about 3 or 4 other people in our little circle that go. We would love to have you. Oh, okay. So I know several people. Now all of a sudden they're even more attracted to wanting to go. And so I don't know if attracted is the right word, but regardless, they want to be there. And so I think it's important to consider in those situations, like if we step into the students, so when we talk about equipping students to invite, we need to come at it from a perspective of, I've never been to this church. I don't know any of the people. What are we going to be doing? And being able to give the students an opportunity to very clearly communicate, this is who we are, this is what we're about, and this is why I think our youth ministry would be good for you.
Yeah, and so I think with that, we really like the power, like you just said, like friends knowing that their friends are there, knowing that more than one person that they hang out with is gonna be there, are both huge aspects. And I think more than anything else, it's just this mindset that like with that knowledge of who's there or who's coming, and I know we hate that question when youth ask it, because it's like, for the love, just come. Like if you want to be here, be here. Like I know we get frustrated as youth pastors when we get that question, but it's an age old question that people have asked forever, and you can't be too angry when it comes to that question. But I do think it's important because it shows the value of other people. Like your students are thriving to be in community. They are like they are starving to be in community. And it's one of those things that like they are literally just asking like who else is going to be there because they want to be around other people. And so that's a great thing. Community is a really, really important life lesson, and we all need our communities. But I think it's also an interesting idea and kind of mindset behind this. Melissa was going to be in this podcast, and she was having technical difficulties, so she wasn't able to make it. But she did say something that I thought was really, really cool in our conversations about where we wanted to go with this episode. And she said that she was talking to some first graders last night because she also is the leader of of Girl Scouts in our town. And so she was talking to first graders and asking them how they wanted to invite their friends to an upcoming event in 2 weeks. And so she was like, "Hey, so like, how do you want to do this? Do you want to send them a card? Do you want to send them a text? How do you want to do this?" And all of the kids immediately said, "Send them a card." And so Melissa was like, "So like, let's take note of this. Kids that are growing up in the remind slash group me phase of communication in the world are still saying yes to personal invitation as the way to get their friends rather than digital." And I think that speaks volumes. It's just this mindset of like, even though digital is a really, really great key and a great thing to have, and it's awesome for reminders, having the power of that personal invitation, whether it's in person or handwritten or anything to that nature, when you are personally handing that card, it makes a lot more impact and makes a lot more sense. My son can see digitally that his grades are great and that he's being good and all that stuff, but he lights up when he gets like the citizenship award. He lights up when he gets he got a card in the mail from one of his teachers just a couple days ago, and it was just like, "Hey, I have loved having you in class. I love your work ethic. I love your optimism. I love how you handle yourself in the classroom. Keep it up. Looking forward to this year." And stuff like that, that little bit of extra intentionality is huge. And so that's the stuff that we want to do. That's the stuff that we want personally. And so why should we settle for anything different when it comes to how we do our invitations? But I say this for the purpose of like, I think there's a hurdle that we have to cross, and it's, David, how do we equip our students to invite their friends? Because we can tell them to invite their friends and they probably will, but how do we make sure they have what they need? Or maybe we help them make a resource, like as far as like an invite, like little business card, or maybe we just help them sit down one night and we just do handwritten notes and be like, "Hey, we want you to come," kind of thing like that. So how do we work towards equipping our students to invite their friends, and what does equipping our students look like as far as the task at hand?
So one of the things that we do as a student ministry that I've made a core part of our DNA is what we call prayer, care, share. The idea is to find 10 people that you can be praying for. And that's just the core of it. Like, we're starting off with prayer, and then from there, same group of 10. Random acts of kindness. That could be writing a letter, that could be taking them out for coffee or a Sonic drink or whatever it might be. Do something nice for them. It could be something that costs money, or if you don't have a lot of money, find ways to do something nice without spending a dime. Let's be honest, some of the nicest things that you can do for somebody, you never have to spend a dime for, which is a really cool thing. That's like a handwritten letter. Kind of like what you were talking about with your son. We have a couple of people in our church that write our son cards for every little thing, every achievement, whatever. Man, we get lots of bills and stuff. My kid's 8 years old. He's not getting stuff in the mail. Even a teenager, they're not really getting stuff in the mail unless they're like older high school and they're getting college stuff, you know. But outside of that, they don't see a lot of mail. And so there's something about seeing a card with your name on it that goes, man. Then he opens it up, sees the card, sees the personalized thing, and it's so nice and so sweet. Kids don't get that a lot. And so that's something to remember is like, we've gotten in youth ministry, we've gone away from mail outs because they weren't effective for a long time. But we can still mail out a personalized letter or a personalized card, and we can have our students do the same thing. And so first we have them praying for them on a consistent basis. And then we encourage them to do random acts of kindness. And then the third one is share. And this is sharing the gospel with them. And obviously there are a lot of students that don't feel like they can lead somebody to Jesus. And we're like, hey, that's fine. Let us help you. You know, bring them to church. And so this is where that invite to church really comes key, you know, in the way that we look at it. It's like, you've been praying for these people. What that does is it creates a heart for the very people that you're trying to reach out to. It's one thing to say invite somebody. Inviting just to invite or because we told you to is not going to excite your students. They need some kind of personal skin in the game. And when you start, I mean, I think you and I both know, and anybody who's listening who has spent any time praying for somebody, when you pray specifically for somebody, not even just because they're going through something, but just because you want to see God do something in their life, you can't help but begin to care about that person. So that starts with care. Then you start actually doing the care, like the random acts of kindness type thing. Now you're not just praying, you're putting more action into it. And then when you get to the point of wanting to share the gospel, inviting them to church, there's almost a, for lack of a better word, there's almost like a urgency in the students to go, man, this is really, really important. I care about this person and I really want them to be at church. Now, I'm not just inviting you to church to grow our numbers or to look good or to win a prize or whatever else like that. I want you here because I'm invested in your spiritual life. That changes the whole game.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the big tie-in behind this is students respond best to relationships. And we talked about this in our last series for the month of August. It's just this matter of like students thrive in relationships. They want relationships, and relationships are what bring them to Jesus. You can market all you want, you can inform all you want, but relationships is where it's key. And to get them in the building, you have to start with that too. And so you start with the relationships they already have, inviting them. And then you start building and working on your own relationship with that student. And so you start working on understanding and building that's relationship or that bridge with that student. And then ultimately you start having those conversations with them. And it's one of those things that, like, especially in the mindset of like how we interact with other people. I think one of the hardest places to do invitations is when you have this new member to church or this new family. They come on a Sunday morning and they're like, hey, we have this youth program, but we just moved into town. Those are the hardest ones due to the fact that there's no relationships built. And so you have to know who your relational go-getters are in your group and say, hey, go get them. And they basically just befriend that person. And so that's how you work with it, that's how you do it. And so it's just almost like you kind of normalize this message that's real simplistic, and it's just this mindset of like, hey, come join me, hey, come sit with me, hey, like, and for churches for years used the like, we have a seat saved for you kind of thing like that. Just this mentality and this focus of, hey, you are important, we are thinking about you, we've been praying for you, we want you here. And if you equip and encourage your students to have that conversation, they feel like they need to be there. And it's a really, really big deal. And I think the other side of equipping students, like David said, the other side of it is when they do bring people, you better believe that we're going to celebrate them. We're going to announce it. We're going to share stories. We're going to do all these different things about invites. The kid that accepted Jesus last Wednesday, I guarantee you tonight, I'm bringing him up on stage. I'm bringing his friend up on stage. I'm talking about the ping pong ball wall that we have in our in the back of our youth room, that like the kids get to drop different color ping pong balls in for different things that they do. One is bringing a friend to youth. One is sharing the gospel with a friend, and then the other one is a friend accepting Jesus. And so then the last one is audibly praying over that friend. And so, like the kid that brought that kid last week got to put 3 different colored ping pong balls in last week, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And so we have this idea, and it's like you have to share it, you have to announce it, you have to engage with that story, and that's what builds this encouragement and an invitation for kids to do it. Is just this mindset of like, hey, look, like we literally had a kid come last week for the first time and they accepted Jesus. Like, how cool is that? And so we share stories about invites, and then we highlight the students that brought the friend, because that is super, super important too. We celebrate the fact that they're there. And sometimes it just depends on the context of your group. Maybe you don't celebrate that from the stage before you get started, but maybe you can do something like us. The little ping pong ball wall that I was mentioning just a second ago, the white ping pong balls are when you bring a friend, and we have like 27 white ping pong balls in there from the beginning of last year. And so with that, we have like 5 blue ones, which is share the gospel, and we got our first purple and our first green last week. And so it takes time, but the students always go look at that wall and just kind of see and watch the level raise, and watch as we get more and more ping pong balls in there. And then I've heard a couple kids be like, hey, like I did that, I'm in there, like I have 3 white ones and a blue one in there, kind of thing like that. So it's super, super important. But yeah, like highlighting and celebrating those stories is really, really important. And then the other thing I think is the mindset of like, you kind of have to work to build the environment of your youth group to encourage this. And so, David, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think anytime you're trying to create kind of an environment and an atmosphere of inviting for your students, I think finding simple ways like what you talked about with ping pong balls is a great visual way to do it, but it's also a great way to allow people in the church to see the growth of the youth ministry too. That is anything you can do visually that helps them see that. Another thing that I've done too is I have pictures of our student ministry doing things, whatever it is. It might be like a regular like Wednesday night stuff, our Sunday night stuff, out at camp, out doing whatever it might be, even if it's something simple. And I add those pictures. I have it for every ministry in our church, and that goes on our announcement slides every Sunday morning. But I also have it for our Wednesday nights. I have it for our youth nights, and they see like, oh, this is who we are. This is what we're about. And I think that's a really good way to also kind of cultivate that environment of this is what we have going on. This is who we are, stuff like that. Because if somebody comes in, if they've never been to church, or they've specifically, again, never been to your church, it's nice to see something that shows this is who we are, this is what we're about. Like they see a picture and you're at an arcade, like Prime Time or something like that, where we're at. That's cool. They're like, oh, y'all have fun. Oh, y'all eat. Y'all do, different things like that. Because you may not start with a meal, different things like that. Like helping them see that, it kind of helps create an environment visually where they can see what you're about. It allows the congregation to see what you're about. But then, specifically for equipping students to be a part of that, again, I think it's simple stuff like having, like you said earlier, knowing who your students are that are very relational. Set up greeters. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong at all with setting up a welcome center that has t-shirts and information and signups, and have somebody manning it. Always have somebody manning it that goes, hi. you know the other side of it too is they don't just have to greet brand new students. Man, if you've been coming for years and years, but every single time you walk in, somebody's there to be like, dude, we're so excited to see you. Here's a high five, here's a hug, whatever it might be. That just makes you feel special, man. Whether you've been coming for, the first time or coming for years, there's just something about always being greeted that makes you feel really, really special. And so I think always having greeters, even if it's just a couple, try to cover every entrance. That is a huge, huge help for that. And then I would also say, yeah, just totally lost it.
No, you're good. No, I mean, and I can throw in a little bit to that. Like, yeah, first impression is huge. Like David just said, like having greeters, having a friendly atmosphere. A lot of times, especially when you get into different youth ministries, and sometimes it's all your kids go to the same school, but a lot of times all your kids go to different schools, and you might have 3 or 4 different school districts in your youth group. It's super, super easy to be cliquish. And so like creating and generating and like encouraging students to create this friendly atmosphere where everybody is welcome. It doesn't matter if you go to a different school, because at the end of the day, like schools will not be in the kingdom of heaven. And so like letting your kids understand that is super, super huge. And having your kids cross that boundary, to where they start becoming friends with kids from other schools is really, really important, because like you are ultimately working on this community in your youth group. And if you have cliques of like who goes to what school, like you're really, really fighting against that community. And so building that vision, building that mentality and that focus of like, hey, we are all in this together. We are all following Jesus. It does not matter what school you go to. We are Christians first and foremost. We are Jesus followers first and foremost. And so having those opportunities to do that is super, super important. And then finally, like the way that I do it is when we have new students, the one of the first things I hand them is a calendar, because the calendar has contact information for me and my associate youth pastor. The calendar has all of our fun events on it. And the calendar has our normal structured like week to week activities on there as well. And so they're like, oh man, they meet a lot. Like they do worship every Wednesday night. That's really, really cool. But then they do like what, Nerf war, and they do paintball, and they do, wow, like that's cool. And so not only am I giving them like buy-in right off the bat, but then I'm also giving them opportunities to where they see these easily set up like first invite events, to where it's really not focused on teaching and instruction and curriculum or anything of that nature. We're just going to show up and have a good time and enjoy each other's fellowship. Stuff like that is a great opportunity for first time invites. But then also, you got to announce that to your students. So every time that I talk about an event coming up, I'm like, hey, this is a great time to bring a friend that's never come, because they're going to come hang out with us. We're going to have a fun time. And then once they have fun, they will start thinking, oh, like this is a pretty cool place. I'm going to go check this out and make sure like, and see what else they do. And so those first time events are really, really important, because just once again, working on that idea of relationships and working on that idea of building this environment where everybody's welcoming, everybody's friendly. You have people that are greeting them when they get there. Free swag never hurt anybody. Having t-shirts, having sunglasses, having bracelets, having whatever. I also keep Bibles. So if we have a kid that comes that doesn't have a Bible of their own, I hand them a Bible before they leave. And granted, it's a paperback Bible. It's nothing fancy, but still, they don't care. They're like, "Oh, wow, they gave me a Bible. That's cool." And so we do a Bible, and it's the same translation as we use for teaching. So when we teach, they have the availability to pull it out and the words are the same, because that trips up a lot of new people. It's like, why are my words different than your words? I thought it was the same Bible. And so like they don't understand translations and stuff like that. So we're really, really intentional behind all of these different things, and they're different reasons that we do them, but just allowing your students to be a part of that is super, super important. And so I don't really feel like this is a super long episode, because a lot of this I think we've already covered. But as we've said for the last couple of weeks, we are throwing biblical tie-ins, or trying to, for each of these episodes. And so the tie-in this week is John chapter 1, 45 and 46. And that's just when Philip invites Nathaniel, and he's just like, hey, dude, come and see. Like, come and see what the Lord has done. Come and see, like, come be a part of this. Invitation is simple. You point people to Jesus. And so, whatever you're doing, however you're doing it, that's the goal, and that's the focus of you being direct, you being forward, to the nature of you have the opportunity that you can step up, you can encourage and equip your students to invite people, bring them into that relationship, and then ultimately point them to Jesus. That is the goal. And so, we're going to cut this one short for the week, but I have 3 challenges for you, just like we've been doing the last couple weeks as well. First off, equip students with invite tools this week. Maybe you print off calendars. Maybe you have cards that are like invitation cards. Maybe you just equip them with what to say when they go do their personal invitation. Or maybe you have something post invite, like I do with the ping pong ball wall or anything to that nature. If you have more questions about the ping pong ball wall, you can email me, brent@studentministryconversations.org, and I'd love to answer any questions that you have. And then also ask leaders to invite one student they haven't seen in a while. Your leaders know your group as well or better than you do, especially as you get larger. And so if there's a leader that's like, hey, we haven't seen this kid in a while, just be like, hey, like when you see him at church on Sunday, or if you see them out in town, like invite them, say, hey man, we missed you. Like, where have you been? Like, we want you to come back. We want you to be a part of youth. And then finally, share a testimony of a student who came through invitation, which is also super, super important, because like I said, invitation can change lives. Invitation is all they need. And it's an opportunity for them to have that relationship with Jesus or hear the gospel for that first time. So David, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say one of the best invite tools I have is a small card. It's not anything huge. It's easy for students to carry with them, to always have and to also give. And it's just something simple, like it has our student ministry name, our church name, a phone number and address, and then it has a QR code. And it says I can't remember exactly what it says, but anyway, it basically says all the information we need. That QR code takes you to a link tree, and on the link tree, it starts with a little announcement video from me, like just kind of introducing who I am, what our ministry is about, who we are. I've got all of our signups on there. I've got our social media, our youth social media stuff. I've got our group me, so that they can stay in the know of everything that's going on. We've got our calendar, and then we have like a giving option for some of our students that want to pay for, XYZ event, camp, whatever.
Yeah.
So what that does is it lets the student see digitally all the things that we have. It puts a face to the ministry, so to speak. But it's also something that they can turn around, because they've scanned a QR code. They can turn around and give that to the parents, and the parents can go. Because I know, especially back in the day, we growing up, we couldn't go anywhere unless our parents knew who the youth pastor was. And so I think sometimes having that little invite by me, they see my face, they know who I am, know what I'm about. There's phone numbers, there's calendars, there's pretty much everything laid out for our youth ministry right there, that QR code from a link tree, and you can get all the information you could possibly need. And I think that's been super, super helpful for some of our students. Since doing that, I think we've had 8 new students come. So that's a pretty cool tool. It's been certainly the most effective that we've had. But again, it's students getting out there and inviting students. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And at the end of the day, that's all you need. It's just that power of personal invite, you equipping them with the resources that they have, whether it be a card or whether it be just the words that say, like I said, or a calendar or anything. You're giving them something that they can hand tangibly to their friend and say, hey, I want you to come with me on Wednesday or Sunday night this next week. And at the end of the day, that's all it needs. Like you start with that relationship, and that relationship can point them to Jesus, and lives are changed. Like I said, I started off the story last week, exactly what happened. And it wouldn't have happened without the power of personal invitation. So, with that being said, that is all that we have for this week. This is week one of a 4-week series, like I said, group growth. So, be sure to check out the next 3 weeks as we will continue to build on this subject. And then also, as we start kind of changing the dynamic of what we're doing, we would love topics that you want us to cover. And so, like, if you have a theme or an idea or question that you would love covered in the podcast, shoot us an email, podcast at student ministry conversation, or you can send us a message on social media at Talk Student Men. We would love to answer questions or discuss topics that you have. And if you're one of those on that topic, we might even pull you in on the show for that episode, just so you can also share in the mindset of what you're doing and how this works in your ministry as well. But the goal is that we want you to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped to be the youth pastor, to be the best youth pastor for the church that you're serving in. That has been since day one our mission and our goal, and we stand behind that 100%. So with that being said, we will see you next week. We hope that you have a great Wednesday night or a great Sunday night or whenever you meet. We hope that your ministry goes great this week, and we will see you guys next week.